Hello, everyone. I want to suggest some anti-fascist type caution to the non-gaming crowd out there about generalizing or hearing generalizations about gaming culture and the kids who create it, because gaming is becoming kind of an amorphous supporting character in the Kirk story. And my main point is beware of talking about gamers as a monolithic block, especially if you don't know any young gamers personally or haven't invested in their lives and their worlds. And I'll say why at the end. But the context is news that appears, there's lots of details to be confirmed, to suggest that Tyler Robinson murdered right-wing propagandist Charlie Kirk under the thrall of an even more hateful movement headed up by Nick Fuentes. Now, Robinson's family culture and confirmation from his grandmother that the whole clan is MAGA, plus him dressing up as a groyper for Halloween, plus slogans on the shell casings have been the main clues so far. Now, there are a lot of very well-paid Gen X and Boomer pundits out there now struggling to decode this streaming Reddit 4chan lingo with varying degrees of success. And as they do so, they'll point to the game Helldivers 2 because Robinson allegedly wrote an airstrike stratagem code from the game onto one of the casings, and there's also a quote from in-game dialogue on another. But here's how strange our world is. Helldivers 2, and I know this because my kids play it, is actually a Paul Verhoeven-style satire of American fascism. It's set in the future, but the armor sets and weapons loadouts can have a really retro feel. Your operator can spray plasma or lead from a futuristic Gatling while hollering about the glory of Super Earth, which is a satirical American-style interplanetary empire on a mission to deliver managed democracy, LOL, to the universe, which involves splatting tons of massive bugs or smashing automatons. The armor sets sometimes look a little bit Nazi, especially with the capes that get stained with bug juice. So you're playing as them, but the absurdity of your team's colonial aggression is clear. Now, if Tyler Robinson was really into this game, he played it probably in that mirror world of LARPing in which the irony starts out as real, but then covers over a real fetishization of violence. And that's what QAnon was, a teenage prank that was laughed into meme form and then memed into real world violence. So yeah, that's as confusing as kayfabe in professional wrestling or neo-kayfabe as described by Josie Reisman in Ringmaster. The point I want to make specifically is for older folks, and particularly male boomer pundits who love to generalize about boys and gaming. Helldivers 2 is funny, irreverent, and when my kids play it and successfully get to an extraction point, which can be really challenging, they shout along with the in-game dialogue. How'd you like the taste of freedom after killing an enemy? Or freedom requires firepower when using a stratagem. And then also the refrain that freedom doesn't come free. And the older kid actually delivers some of the lines with a pretty good Trump voice, and that cracks us all up. And then the younger one will say things like, is this game making fun of Trump and fascists? And so that starts a good discussion that I think the game devs at Arrowhead wanted to instigate, but probably knew that some kids would miss it. My advice is try to hold yourself back from moral panic territory when you hear about extremists playing a video game. That happens, but extremists also buy groceries. Most popular games have enormous international player bases, and they serve kids and young adults from countless backgrounds. Gaming is just the internet that way, and for many kids, it's a vital access point to all kinds of adventure and socialization. And, like the internet, it also has pockets and cul-de-sacs of depression and bullying and nihilism that catch up both likely and unlikely victims. And my sense is that the mechanism for that happening is the same for vulnerability to cults or other recruitment gravity wells. Alienation and frayed social fabrics. I'm not going to lie that my kids are lucky that I'm engaged with their online lives. Not everyone has that, but also it's not that hard to get curious, to lean into gaming, maybe even pick up a damn controller if you haven't, because there's nothing that makes you sound like a bigger fraud than talking about gaming when you don't play. And that's why the Jonathan Haidt discourse is so useless and ultimately reactionary. More on that in some other video. That's my main point. The absolute best historical and ethnographic study on this stuff comes from journalist Dale Baran and his 2019 book, It Came From Something Awful, in which he tracks the key figures in gaming and Chan culture, the people who built the cultural architecture and behavioral patterns that gave rise to QAnon. And what's very clear from that work is that some gamers can build their identities in opposition to the non-gaming world that's clucking tongues and wagging fingers and depicting them as losers because they play games. So if you're out there generalizing about gamers as social pariahs without understanding that that demographic is just as diverse as any other, and that for some people, gaming is a social lifeline and a legitimate lab space for learning and even emotional regulation, you will alienate the majority because they're listening to you, and you will provoke the minority who are also listening to you. What the proto-QAnon kids said was, oh yeah, you think we're worthless online losers? Well, we'll prove it to you by fucking up your sector of the internet. So bottom line, please do not add to intergenerational acrimony during a period of rising fascism, because rising fascism runs on the lifeblood of pissed off young men.